Hey there, friendlies. Today's show is sponsored by Love Justice International. Love Justice is a nonprofit organization that fights human trafficking by intercepting victims while they're being transported, but before they've been exploited. To date, they have intercepted over 22,000 people in multiple countries around the globe, including girls like Alina. Alina was just trying to provide for her family when she heard of an amazing job opportunity away from her home in her small village in South Asia. But when she arrived, her phone was taken away and she was forced into a brothel with no means of escape. She never agreed to this. She doesn't want it. She has not been broken, but she soon will be. Every 60 seconds, about the time we'll take to talk about this, two people like Alina are trafficked every minute of every day, 365 days of the year, like clockwork. But what if someone was there to stop it before it ever happened? This is where Love Justice International comes in. They have strategically placed their teams in multiple countries around the world to intercept thousands of girls and boys just like Alina and prevent them from being trafficked into slavery. Folks, these guys are the real deal. This whole thing started when 5 college buddies, one of which happened to be my little brother, went to Nepal for 6 months after graduating with no plans other than to hang out, play some soccer in the streets, and get to know the kids of Kathmandu. One of them ended up staying behind to start what is now Love Justice International. That was 2002, and 18 years later, Love Justice is rescuing kids all throughout Africa and Asia. I know firsthand that there's no fluff here. These folks are actually on the ground, living in these countries, doing the work and getting astounding results, not only preventing exploitation, but partnering with law enforcement to file cases, collect evidence, all this to ensure that the bad dudes who are doing this are arrested and convicted. It's super easy to help out. Even just a few bucks help. So please, if you would, take a minute, go check out what Love Justice is doing to stop human trafficking at lovejustice.ngo. Once again, that is lovejustice.ngo. Do it. My guest today grew up in Philly, cutting his teeth on a steady diet of R&B, hip-hop, rock, blues, and soul music.
Yes.
He moved to Nashville in 2013 and released his independent EP in 2016. Shortly thereafter, he signed a label deal with Capitol Records, and his first 3 singles from his album Unchained, Get Out and Get It, The Good Life, have all reached the top 20 on Billboard's adult alternative chart. Unchained made the top 10, and his current single, The Good Life, is well on its way. I know I'm not alone in my honest consideration that this guy is truly one of the most insanely unique and next-level voices to show up on the scene in a lot of years. So with that said, please welcome to the show a man whose smoothness makes a baby's bottom seem brazen, whose smile makes Colgate toothpaste execs rain dollar bills like candy from a piñata, and whose kindness makes even the holiest of monks just a tad bit motivated. The talented and powerful Devon Gilfillian.
I love you so much, Jamie. God, that was the greatest introduction I've ever gotten. I hands down. Hands down.
Good. We all deserve a great
No one's going to
introduction.
beat that.
Yeah, we all deserve a great intro occasionally. Nice, man. Dude, it's good to have you here, my friend.
God, it is, Jamie. It's so great to be here, brother. It's so great to be here. Cheers.
Cheers, brother.
Yes.
Cheers. Drink that mezcal.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about, you grew up in Philly.
Yeah.
So I love Philly. So I was a history poli-sci major in college before I committed my life to Nashville. And I love that city, man, because it's got everything. It's got the history. It's got the grit.
The attitude, straight up.
Attitude. Yeah, it's got the food.
Oh, God, the food.
Right. So tell me what it was like growing up in Philly, man. What was your experience?
You know, it was growing up in Philly. So I grew up in right outside Philly, 20 minutes outside of Philly, in this little small town, Morton, Pennsylvania. And Morton is, it's a little black suburb outside of Philly. And I went to Springfield School District, which was mostly white. And, you had Morton kind of pushed into the district, which was great. I got a great public education, and but as far as musical influence from growing up around Philly, I got a lot of the musical stuff from my dad. My dad gave me, he put me on the Stevie Wonder. Stevie was playing Almhouse, all the Motown, Marvin Gaye, Ray Charles. And then as a kid on the block, I was, hanging with the crew, with the kids. We were listening to Kanye West and to Pharrell and to Ludacris and Clips and Biggie and all that good hip hop. And so I was getting like hip hop over here. I was getting the old soul from my dad. And then I finally picked the guitar up and then fell in love with Jimi Hendrix, and then fell into the classic rock hallway, the Allman Brothers, and dove down into Led Zeppelin and that kind of stuff. But as far as, like, it was growing up in outside of Philly, there's a bullshit radar, that you kind of get, that you can cut through, and there's definitely people don't have time for it. That's the difference between here and Nashville. Like Nashville, I feel like people are definitely more open and like, hey, how's it going? We'll talk to you in the grocery line and whatnot. Like in Philly, everybody's trying to go. Yeah. Everybody's like, listen, I don't have time to listen to your complaining or whatever you got. I'm on the move, And but it's real. There's a realness to it, It's like nobody's like pretending to want to have a conversation they don't want to have, but also I like a slower life, I like to take my time, and I like to have the conversation in the grocery line.
Yeah, of course. Hey, just popped into my head, the city of brotherly love, right? Is that Philly?
That's it. That's Philly.
So where'd that come from? I don't even know that. Do you know?
That's a great question. I just
Mike, look that up.
Yeah.
I want to know where that thing, because I mean, I wouldn't have described Philly. Once again, one of my favorite cities. I have a great story about Philly that I should tell you sometime. Maybe another mezcal and we'll get into it. But where I just kind of took off post playing a show in an arena there at the Spectrum, the old Spectrum.
Oh, wow.
And I just took off and went looking for some food. And I found some insane Moroccan by myself in this place that, trust me, when they were bringing me there, I was a little scared. Bring me down this dark street. I was like, there's no restaurant around here. There's no restaurant around here. Because I just asked somebody, take me to the best ethnic food here that you can find. They're like, hey, we know about this Moroccan spot.
Oh, my God.
Anyway, that story is a good one. But I wouldn't necessarily describe Philly as the city of brotherly love.
It's straight up like, you know what? It's funny because I thought about that too. I was like, the brotherly love, what is brotherly love? And I think about the love that me and my brother have, and it's basically we beat the shit out of each other and like, cuss at each other and like call each other out on our bullshit, Right. And I'm like, oh, I guess Philly kind of does do that in a way. And oh man. And also like I love the theater. Have you ever been to the TLA, the Theater of Living Arts? That was the first concert I went to in Philly. I saw the Los Lonely Boys.
No, you did not. That's a great first concert.
Yeah, they tore it up. They killed it. Was insane. It was as a like 14-year-old guitar player, you're just like, you want to eat up anybody that's like shredding on the guitar. You're
that's
like,
a muso dream. Yeah,
that's what I want. And Henry Garza and the Garza brothers, they were like, it was like Santana and Stevie Ray Vaughan had a baby. Yeah, that was like what they were doing. And they were feeding to the guitar nerd demographic, which was absolutely me. But I mean, it was amazing. It was mind blowing. But the TLA on South Street, they got gyms and Ishkabibbles steaks on there. That Ishkabibbles is my cheesesteak spot.
Is it
Ishkabibbles?
Never heard of it. Okay, so that's the Philly cheese spot, huh?
That's the cheese spot. That's my spot. That's where I go.
Okay,
yeah.
They're still rocking right now. They're
doing. They actually opened another Ishkabibbles like a couple blocks down from the original one on South Street. So, yeah, they're thriving.
All right,
they're thriving.
And you guys got Rocky, man. That's just something that nobody can ever take from
Rocky.
You.
I mean, he's right up on the steps at the museum. It's epic. It's epic. Philly's an awesome city, man. I love it, and I don't know if I'm gonna move back. It's one of those things where I think you got to go to you. Some people are given wings, and some people are given roots. And I was definitely given wings. I was like, I got to go wherever the music is. And now I'm Nashville feels definitely more like home, and more like a place where I could, as a flower, pour the sun and the get the nutrients that I need. Here.
Yeah, I like that. Some people are given wings, others are given roots.
Yeah,
that's pretty good, man. I'm gonna steal that.
Take it.
No, we're gonna do it.
Yes, come on.
Yeah. So you moved to Nashville, and you mentioned Jimmy. So Jimmy gets brought up. I would assume because he was an influence of yours that you don't mind it when your names get tossed about side by side. In fact, it's probably humbling, I would think, just given what that dude is. But Jimmy actually had a really incredible formative stint in Nashville.
That's right.
Do you know about his time in Nashville? Have you kind of checked it? Given that you're a Jimmy,
I have. I know he was stationed in Clarksville when he was in the Army, and then he would come down here and play on Jefferson Street, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know who he was playing with though.
It was so
a bunch of R&B bands.
And evidently Jefferson was a bit of a thing. They had the Del Morocco on Jefferson, which over by my studio. You've been to my studio.
Yeah.
So just out the back door of my studio.
Wow.
And I had heard rumors that Jimmy had a studio on Jefferson. But yeah, he'd play at the Del Morocco, and I think it was the Ritz Theater down there on Jefferson. But there was a whole scene there on Jefferson that he would roll about in, and then he would pop into some sessions here and there.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's wild. I mean, and it just shows that Nashville has always been such a music hub, and it also, like, I'm really excited for the African American Museum that's opening up over there, like over by the farmers market.
Is it?
Yeah, there's an African American History Museum.
Okay.
That's opening up, and I'm sure it's going to talk all about Jefferson Street and just the R&B scene that was happening there. I don't know enough about that, And so
is it opening up on Rosa Parks?
Right on Rosa Parks, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah.
When's that? I haven't even heard about that. When's that slated?
It's I'm not sure when it's supposed to open. I know, but they've been building it for the past couple years now. Or I guess at least a year. And there's an African American museum opening up on Broadway actually too.
Okay.
Yeah. It's really cool. There's actually some cool history that's like being achieved here, which is awesome.
Nashville has an incredible legacy around the civil rights race issue, even with late John Lewis passing, brought a little bit of attention to that, and but Nashville's got some history there, and in fact, Jimmy got arrested. Jimmy got arrested in Nashville a couple times.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh wow!
With his who was his cohort that he was in that band? He was in the band the Bonnevilles with.
Was it Billy? Was Billy Cox in
that? It was
that?
Billy Cox.
Yeah.
He and Billy Cox got arrested in 1962 in Nashville.
Wow.
Yeah, when he was popping down, just playing gigs, and he came down and was staying, I guess, on weekends and stuff, and they decided to get into a little bit of trouble, a little bit of good trouble.
Insane. I got to meet Billy Cox one time.
Did you really?
I did. So Austin Hendricks is the nephew of Jimmy. And I met him right as I moved down to Nashville because he was friends with my friend Deanna, who and Austin was managing or tour managing for Janelle Monáe, and we randomly met, and he 3-4 years later he hits me up and he's like, yo, you want to come to this? We're doing this Experience Hendrix thing that Zakk Wylde and Joe Satriani and all these guitar shredders were on, and Billy Cox was there playing bass.
No way.
Down in Chattanooga. It was at the is it Talia? I forget what the
Theater?
Theater.
Yeah.
It's the theater down there. Beautiful, beautiful theater. And yeah, Billy Cox, I got, after the show, I met him. He's like, man, just eat good and stay off the junk.
He's boiled it down to that.
That was it. That was the advice that he gave me. And I was like, all right.
There you go. There you go. Goodness, what a legend. That's really cool.
Crazy.
Really cool. So when you got to Nashville, unlike Jimmy, who he had a longer road before he ended up, he landed with the Isley Brothers and then started playing with Little Richard, right?
Yeah.
But he had to, it didn't just happen for him here. You, on the other hand, it happened pretty easily. And I say that because you may not see it as easy.
No.
I've just seen a lot of people who have come here and they've just wandered around for a long
10
time.
years,
And it's taken them a minute to just land something. And typically, if they're talented enough and they work hard and they treat people well, they will eventually get it.
Yeah.
But it takes a minute. But man, you landed something pretty quick. How did that happen? And
yeah,
how did that happen? And then also, do you feel like you have to overcome the fact that you got that record deal? I mean, anybody who's as talented as you should get a record deal the minute he wants it, but that's just not the way it works.
Yeah,
so talk about that process a little bit, how that happened and
Absolutely. It did happen quick. It absolutely did. And when it, I had, so many musicians, I see musicians out there like that. When I got here, I'm just like, whoa, like they're 100 times more talented than me, and I always have that mindset of like, how do I keep pushing myself in that I always want to raise myself to whoever standard that I'm around. And, when I got here in Nashville for a year, I worked with AmeriCorps, and then I started working at City Winery and putting myself, I knew that if I put myself at City Winery, I'd put myself around musicians. I was working the green room, working the backstage, waiting on Mark Broussard and Booker T. Jones and like all these like amazing artists, and sliding my CD, my little EP CD in the green room. Oh yeah,
good for you. Man. That's tough to do, man. It takes some balls, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think I just like kept putting myself. You have to just keep putting yourself in that. I played out. As soon as really I put myself with people that were going to light fire under my ass like no other, and really meeting people that empowered me to be the artist that I am, and because I really didn't believe in myself as a songwriter and as an artist till 2015. And when until I started writing with people, I met John, my manager, drummer, and he was like, dude, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, work on your songs. I was playing guitar for a Delta blues band, a reggae band, a pop synth band, and I had songs that I've put out on SoundCloud, but I wasn't like being serious about it. And, I wanted it. I wanted to be an artist, but I didn't know like how to do it. And I didn't know who to learn from. And I think it's so important to know that like you got to put a team together. You got to find people that believe in you and that also will hold you accountable to be the best person that you can be. And I quickly realized that, and I was working and playing shows and whatnot, but didn't have the people around me that said, no, man, like that's not the path. Like you gotta make a right turn here, or you gotta do this. And really it takes a team. It really does. And once I actually read this book, I forget exactly what it's called. It was like how to make it in the music business or something like that. And the first like chapter was like putting a team together, finding a manager that believes in you. Like you could get an older manager that's been in the game for however long and has clout, or you could find a younger manager who like is hungry, who believes in you and like will do anything for you and gets your musical vision and sees it and like then finding a lawyer, finding this person, finding that. And so I really like, I'm lucky. I feel lucky because Nashville has such a deep root, such deep roots of music business. And I quickly had to learn how to put a team together and also inspire people, inspire that team to believe in what I'm doing. And
did you have that team together prior to Capitol?
So I had John, like John like was my creative partner, like in creating the EP. We did my first EP, and he had been in bands in college and like has basically managed his band, but didn't know he was managing his band.
Right.
And then like a year like into our like musical relationship, like when basically we were going to meeting with like agents and other managers and being like, and John would be like, just my like producer homie, like, drummer, producer, co-producer homie with the manager meetings. And then like with the agent meetings, he'd kind of be like my manager kind of guy.
Right.
And so at a certain point we're just like, you're my manager, man. Like you are, like, that's what you're doing. And I trust you and you do it better than anyone. Like I trust you with my Social Security and my life, like you're the dude.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Man, there's something especially today, because you just aren't getting the record deal off demos typically anymore, unless something freakish happens.
You got
some crazy thing.
You got to build the buzz, and I'll say one thing that we did do well was once we put out the EP back in 2016 in May, we immediately started like playing out a bunch in town. We started booking residencies, and also on those residencies, which we did at Family Wash and Acme, I was like, I want to. Like,
that's the opposite end of the continuum. Are you serious? Family Wash and Acme?
Family Wash and Acme Feed and Seed.
Hey, I hope that wasn't an accident, because that's brilliant. I mean, talk about the two. Hey, we got to cover the crowd at Devon. I'm gonna force you. I hope this is what John said. Devon, I'm going to force you to hold a crowd at Acme and then a crowd at Family Wash. If you can make both those demographics stay silent when you play, you're golden.
And dude, that was like absolutely. That is what you have to do. And if you have to prove and being in Nashville, you're surrounded by the industry. When you're playing out, like there's somebody's going to be there that whispers to another person, yo, you got to check this person out. Right. And, Family Wash and Acme were perfect environments to like test. You got to test it out. It's like a comedian going out testing out jokes. If they don't laugh, then you ain't funny, man.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you go out and play the music and the people aren't like feeling it, they're not paying attention, then you got to figure out how to make them pay attention, or else it's not working. In Nashville, homie from Sony sitting in the corner, like he can see that. And so we booked these residencies and got like Katie Pruitt, Kashana Armstrong, all these like badass women pulled in, and had some homies, a couple guys coming too. But like really, like we just were like, all right, who are our friends that are amazing and talented and really doing something great? Let's put them on the bill, pack the place out. And we pack it out, we build a buzz, and that's when people from the industry start coming and paying attention.
Hey folks, I want to talk to you a little bit about the sponsor for our podcast, Love Justice International. Love Justice International is an organization very, very dear to my heart. Did you know that 40 million people, as we speak, are living in slavery as a result of human trafficking in our modern day society? Love Justice is an organization that actually attacks that trafficking, and they do it at its most strategic point while it's occurring, but most importantly, before the men, women, and children have been exploited. They're in 19 different countries, and in those 19 different countries, they've worked with authorities to arrest over 950 suspects and have prevented over 24,000 people from being trafficked. This is so very important. So if you get a second, please go to their website, lovejustice.ngo, and for just a couple bucks a month, a couple cups of coffee, you can literally stop a girl or a boy from being exploited or enslaved. So once again, take a minute, go to lovejustice.ngo, lovejustice.ngo. Thanks.
And that was that I will say too, like being a black artist in Nashville is there's not many of them. Right. You know, there's a handful, and so that too, what I was doing, you know, busting down the Americana, gospel, blues, rock and roll, like busting into that as a black artist, you know, I felt I was doing something pretty unique too, in Nashville, that people were like, okay, like I can get on board with that. So like, which I'm totally aware of too. Like it's all these different factors coming together and just using like the moment, the gifts, the in that time, and the people around me empowering me to do it. So that was. Did you feel or I'm sure you did, but what were the ways that you felt the weight of being a black man in this town, trying to break into this industry with all the encumbrances of that we know exist here? How did that, me sitting here as a white dude, can't really think about the specifics of that. Give me an idea of like what did you feel trying to break in this town as a black dude in a white industry? You know, I definitely feel like as a black artist who plays like R&B, I feel like in the time that I like my first EP, it was very inspired by this town. I got to Nashville and I fell in love with country. I fell in love with Americana. I fell in love with like, you know, the fact that like country and gospel are brother and sister, and wanted to, you know, feel that sound. But I also feel like if I were to want to do like a neo soul kind of project, it would have been a lot harder for me to break into the Nashville scene. Like there is Jason Eskridge who does Sunday Night Soul, and that scene that's like popping and I'm so great. Like if that wasn't here, I don't know what I would do. You know, because shout out to Jason. Shout out to Jason Eskridge. He's we were talking about tip of the spear. Yep. I mean, a lot of tips of the spear, but he's on it. Yes, he is on it. Yep. And so important to the black music scene in Nashville. And I do feel like I like, as far as like my artistry, there's not compromise exactly. Like I don't feel like I personally have compromised on what I want to do, but I feel like now that I created that Americana gospel inspired EP, I'm now tokenized as like the Leon Bridges, Gary Clark Jr., like quickly put into that category, whereas like I don't see myself as just one thing. I do want to spread into Daniel Caesar, Frank Ocean, Nick Hakim, neo soul world, and I do want to span into like that, you know, gospel staple singers, you know, old soul world too. But I also love hip hop, and I want to incorporate that, and so I will say, like, as a black artist who started off doing like gospel, you know, the kind of put Americana flavor out, like I feel like I get pushed, boom, right in that into that pigeonhole corner. And you think that's because you're black and it's a unique, almost novelty? Yeah, a black dude doing Americana. Absolutely. Right. So Absolutely. It's almost like it's Like, wow, we got one. We got a black guy doing Americana. We got to get him.
Paste him on everything.
Like, we got him. Like, he's representing Americana. Yo, look, see, we got a black guy. You know, like, and there's that feeling, of course, but there's also the feeling of like acceptance and like, you know, yes, like, damn, Dev, like you're doing this, like no one else has done it, and it's cool. But also, like, will you? In my head, I'm like, well, will you accept the left turn that I make, which really Black Hole Rainbow, that was what it was supposed to be, is like pushing out of the, you know, box of like Americana rock and roll into more of a psychedelic, spacey soul world, you know?
Yeah. You ever sat with Robert Randolph and talked to him about any of this stuff?
Oh man, I would love to. I ran into him one time on the porch at the Basement East, and then he was chilling. I was I'm not gonna bother him. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, we need to hook that up with old Patrick Davis.
Oh man,
Robert comes by the house a little bit, and he's been at a couple parties over there. But your experience, I mean, just with Robert's experience kind of paving some of that ground, I would think that you guys would have some similar frustrations and also, you know, stories.
I would love to get the wisdom from him, man.
Yeah, let's hook that up. That'd be really fun. So you and I met, you and I met early on in your writing process. Like, I think you had just started writing for that Capitol record. You had gotten signed.
Yeah.
Chris York signed you. Shout out Chris York.
Shout out to Chris York.
And Chris York called me and he was like, hey, this dude is legit, but he's early on. And that process for you was a long process, meaning the point at which you got signed to Capitol and then they put you in the writing grind.
Yeah.
And it took a minute. And man, I got to be honest, I've seen so many artists that never emerge from that process. They get signed, they think they've made it, they get their deal, and all of a sudden the label puts them in this insane writing process. And 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years later, the artist doesn't know up from down.
Yeah.
They've forgotten any resemblance of what they are as an artist, and that they've just been writing so much in that factory, and the kind of label just throws them into that scene and just says, bye, we'll see you in 2 years.
Yeah.
So when I say congrats on getting out of that and actually coming out and making an insane album, most people don't. Talk about that, man. Like, was there a point was it 2 years, D? Was it?
Yo, it was about two. I mean, I signed with Capitol in October of 2017. And I mean, I believe we met maybe right before or a little right after and started writing. And you know, it was about 2.5 years before for the release of the record. And I learned so much. And it totally is true. Like, you really have to hold on to who you are as an artist and know who you are as an artist and know who you want to be too, know who you want to evolve into. And I kind of looked at the writing process in that way whenever I got in the room. And it's like we were saying earlier, like, you know, when you getting in the room with someone who you can vibe with and you can connect with and who has the emotional capacity to go there with you and understand you. And some people don't,
right?
You know, and you have to, and also a lot of writers have these big fat egos that you have to like work around as an artist sometimes. Like, you have to recognize when they're saying something that is just not you.
Right.
And I had to, for sure, like, go through that process of like writing songs that I was just like, that ain't it. That is not me. And also getting confident as an artist and getting a healthy ego when you go in the room and just be like, nah, like, this is my vision. This is what I want. This is how I see the song. And this is the chorus. This is the melody I got in my head. And you know, that's a process that I've had to dig around for sure.
Well, it's a weird thing because you're being asked to find your sound, but know who you are. Because you can't find your sound unless you know who you are. If you're constantly fluid in that process,
and
you're writing 200 songs, you're going to end up with this fractious
a disco song over here and a yodeling song over there, and you're like, what is this? Like, I don't even know.
Yeah. So from an artist perspective, that's going to be really difficult to somehow. It seems to be two things that don't fit. You've got to know yourself, but you don't know yourself musically yet. That's what you're trying to form, right? Like you were trying to figure out during those 2.5 years, what is Devon the artist? But you somehow got to still know who Devon is, the person, right? There's got to be an anchor there.
Absolutely. And it comes down to, it's always evolving. You know, I think that you have to evolve as an artist, and if you don't evolve, then you're just gonna put out records that, you know, in 10 years that people are like, damn, I wish Devon was doing the thing he was doing 10 years ago. You know, and you know, he's not doing anything different, but at a certain point, you have to commit to, you know, to a vision of what and also commit to the songs to like, and if you're being honest and true in the songwriting process and really being present with your emotions and putting the truth into that song, then just accept it, and you have to accept that and know the vision, the sound that you want to wrap it around, the sonic space. Mm-hmm. You have to commit to a sonic space at some point, at least for a record. You know, you don't have to, like, you can keep. I think it's important to like. I'm a record artist. I want to make records. You know, I do singles as well, and I think it's important to do that. But like, I think records, when you put a piece of work out like that, it says, this is who I am as an artist. Like, this is a statement, and and if you can do that in different ways, then great. You can do that in many ways. Branding, your social media, all that. That's a huge part of it. But musically, I think that's putting a record out with a sonic space is a very strong statement.
I'm so glad you put out a full project.
Thank you.
A full album, because that is not easy to do today.
No.
Did you get any pushback from the label? Did they want to do EPs? Did they want to do
honestly, they were down. Like, they were down for a record. They wanted a record, and they wanted me to make my record. They wanted me to find the producer who I love, and I found Sean Everett, and like, it was a dream, and it taught me so much. Like, they really did like spend the money that was necessary to get the record done. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, all right, like, we took our time. We spent like 4 months making it.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the benefits of having a legit A&R guy that trusts you.
Yes.
Chris York.
Somebody
who gives you the freedom to do that and isn't trying to go for the quick fix, but he obviously understood you were an artist, not just that you needed a project, not just singles.
100%.
You're always going to release singles, but you know, it helps to have an A&R guy that gets that, right?
100%. Yeah. Chris is, and I'm so grateful for Chris from the beginning. He was like, what is it, Devon? What is your vision? Like, who do you want to be? Who do you want to produce this record? Who do you want, you know? Yeah. And I felt that with Chris and Capitol, and I still feel that, you know, it's a business partner that, you know, could potentially, like, I've heard horror stories, hundreds of horror stories, but I'm grateful to be in this place where, like, they love me as an artist, and they love what I'm doing. I'm like, whew, all right, cool, thank you.
Hey folks, one more shout out to our sponsor for the podcast, Love Justice International. Love Justice started 20 years ago when 6 college students decided that they would go to Kathmandu, Nepal, play soccer in the streets, get to know the kids of the city. And in the course of doing this, they really fell in love with Nepal, but also became aware of the scourge that really inflicts not just Nepal, but the surrounding region, and that is human trafficking. So as a result of seeing this, they tried to figure out what they could do and started the organization originally called Tiny Hands and now renamed as Love Justice International. One of the other reasons why this is very near to my heart and why I'm so closely connected to it is one of those 6 college students was my little brother. And as a result, I really got to watch them over the years and how passionate and devoted they are to this cause. But not just that, but how effectively and efficiently they administer the aid and the help towards eradicating slavery in the area. So I can't emphasize this enough. Go to the website, lovejustice.ngo. For just a few bucks a month, you can prevent a child from being trafficked or enslaved. It's that easy. So lovejustice.ngo. That's lovejustice.ngo. Thank you.
Man,
my favorite song on your record is "Get Out and Get It."
Yeah, baby.
I think it's maybe because there was a point at which I was, and I know this wasn't the impetus for this song, but I got super deep into the meters and all the Louisiana guy, that Louisiana scene, and I'm trying to even think how I got into it. I think it was probably Harry Connick at some point as a kid.
Yes.
I started listening to the meters and all that kind of that linear beat driven stuff that just trance, that just
yes.
And
you know, like, and that's like the meters was inspiring Afrobeat in Africa and Fela Kuti. Fela Kuti in Africa, in Nigeria in the 70s was listening to James Brown, you know, and so like that's where that like Get Out and Get It was straight up me wanting to dive into Afrobeat land.
Nigerian psychedelic Afro rock is what I heard you say, right?
Yep.
That was the inspiration on that. And Fela Kuti, am I pronouncing that correct? Fela Kuti? Fela Kuti. He's the dude who ran up on Paul McCartney when Paul McCartney was recording in Lagos.
Oh, wow.
Right? And he accused Paul McCartney of coming specifically to Nigeria, Lagos, to record, I think it was like the 4th or 5th Wings record.
Whoa.
And he accused publicly Paul McCartney for coming to Nigeria to steal Nigerian music and Nigerian licks and Nigerian hooks.
Whoa.
So, there's so much we could talk about with regard to Nigerian music. I mean, I feel like there's such a deep embed from Nigerian music in pop music and in soul music. Yeah. I mean, it's for whatever reason they have an incredible lineage. But Paul McCartney invited him to the studio. You guys got to check this out. This is an amazing story. But he invites him into the studio and he plays the songs for Fela Kuti to prove to him, to say, hey man, we've been rolling with this like well before we came here. We just wanted to come to Nigeria because we love the environment. We want to be in a different spot to record this album. And so he essentially was, the way I heard the story was, he was paying homage.
Yeah.
And he brought him in to say, hey, I just want to let you know I'm paying homage.
I'm not trying to
steal your stuff, but yeah,
it's a sensitive subject, right? Like appropriation of music and I firmly believe that Paul McCartney was trying to pay homage, you know, and it really depends on like how, I guess the relationship between someone playing a different type of music that like belongs to another country is, you have to pay the homage in the way that the other person wants you to pay the homage, right? Almost. I think that's like, you can only use this music if you are actually respecting and giving back, and that person says you can do it. And who's to say that Fela Kuti is the true ambassador of that music? I mean, he is.
Yeah, he is. Right.
He is.
It seems
he is
safe to say that, especially at the time, he was
he's like,
the spokes.
You ain't. This is mine, yo.
Yeah. He's the spokesperson.
This is Africa's.
So D, the other side of that is, and I mean, everything you just said, I hear it and I agree with it. Mm-hmm. But where is the balance between, I mean, I see music as this universal gift that is no one's.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In some ways, when we talk about two things that don't seem to fit, everything you said with regard to paying homage, giving respect to the genesis of that aesthetic ascent, because an aesthetic, especially when it's regional in a place like Nigeria that is so uniquely known for their music, that aesthetic is grown out of the culture, like you said. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is not some, especially in a third world country where we have pop light music that, kids are driving up to the Sonic and meeting their buddies and listening to their favorite song on Spotify, right? But these third world countries that have developed music is this is an outgrowth of a lifestyle, in most cases a really hard lifestyle, specific to them.
Yeah.
So that to me is unequivocally true, right?
Yeah.
But then on the other side, you have this truth that music is this gift that is all of ours. Nobody can own it.
Yeah.
There's only a certain amount of notes, a certain amount of chords, a certain amount of rhythms, right? And we all are feeding off each other and bathing in this huge waterfall of beauty that is music. How do you balance those two when you start talking about those things? I believe both of those things are true. And yet, in an instance like that, what are your thoughts on those two?
I think that when you are a musician, and if you decide you are going to be a professional musician, you do have a responsibility. You do have a responsibility to be you're a historian. You are a music historian, and it's your responsibility to know where that music comes from and why that music was derived, and if you're going to make money off of that, then you have to respect where that music comes from, and you do have to pay homage. Like, I think of Ry Cooder going down to Cuba and making Buena Vista Social Club, and it wasn't a Ry Cooder album. He didn't call it Ry Cooder. He called it Buena Vista Social Club because he was paying homage to the players who the Cuban players who were on that record, and those players have careers for the rest of their lives because of that record, and that was the gift that he gave to them, but also he acknowledged the gift that they were giving to him with playing their music with him on that record. Stevie Ray Vaughan, he would bring Al King on stage because Al King gave him his guitar voice, and so I think, like, if you are going to play the blues, then you better know where it came from, the pain that it came from, and pour back into the Black community that it came from, and also it's funny because, and specifically with the blues, right? Like, there's so much. The blues is so romanticized, and there's a whole demographic of people that listen to the blues. They love it, but they don't fucking understand where it came from, the pain that it came from, and they look back and say, oh man, they might say, like, oh, the pain, that old blues singer, his lady hurt him, and like he can't get a job, and that's sad. That shit's still happening today. That's what hip hop is. Hip hop is the blues, right? Like, hip hop is the blues because a majority of Black people didn't have the money to hire a full band, so they had to rig their their turntable and speakers and then that's how hip hop was created, because poor black people innovated and created music in poor neighborhoods in New York, and like that's where it came from. So and it's like hip hop is so dehumanized and so like there's bullshit in hip hop, but there's also like Kendrick Lamar, who is saying everything that Elmore James was saying back in the day, but with even more urgency. Mm-hmm. And I think that I digressed a little bit, but like
no, you're progressing.
Actually. I think that like the appreciation, and that goes for hip hop. When Eminem decides he wants to rap as a white guy, like he paid homage to it. He did. He lived that life, mm-hmm. And if you as a musician, if you're gonna be a white guy playing the blues, then you better go down to fucking Mississippi and hang out with our, like the whoever's left on the Burnsides, or, and go and really pay homage to these people, to these places, because music comes out of culture. A lot of the music in this country came out of black culture, mm-hmm. a lot of it. And I think it is a responsibility to pay that homage, and music is free and should be felt by everybody. But as an artist, I'm like, I want you to feel it, and I want you to understand the history behind it. That's how I feel.
Damn, Devon Gilfillian, you're blowing my mind now. That's a hell of an answer.
Thank you.
Man, that makes a lot of sense. And I like the delineation you made, even as an artist, if you're going to make money with it. Not that is the only prerequisite. I mean, I think that even if you're, like you said, even if you're going to touch the blues, especially something like that, a style like that has such a direct lineage to pain.
Yeah.
If you're going to play the blues, then you better know. But even more so as an artist who is going to profit off of that, make money, that you better go around yourself to make sure that you're paying homage. But I like, even you pushed it farther. You said not just pay homage, but give back.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yes.
Especially when you got guys like Paul McCartney, obvious legend, and from every report, this amazing human being. I mean, just a great dude. But all of us have to be reminded, and Fela Kuti was reminding him, in a sense, like, you're a good dude, but like,
you're awesome.
Give you just understand the gravity and the expensive, the price this cost us to grow this aesthetic. It didn't come by easily. Therefore, tread gravely and humbly as you're taking part in making music in our country and recording your album and using, right? I mean, I think that's
100%. I mean, it's Paul McCartney, the biggest artist in the world.
Right.
He's got millions of dollars, mm-hmm. coming to this third world country where Fela Kuti has been fighting the government for years, has created this music to empower people to fight the government that is there. And then some super rich artist wants to come and like get a taste of that and like put it in his music and make millions of more dollars and then leave. And then, like, who knows? I'm sure Paul did something, in order to pay homage after Fela was like, yo, motherfucker. But like, that's for sure. Like, that's what it is. That's what it looks like on the outside as it's like, sure, man, you can come in and like have a taste of this music, but you better like build a school here, Paul McCartney.
Yeah, right.
You got the money. If you want to have some of this music, you better make the lives of who this music, the people who have struggled and the pain that came out of this music, you better make the lives of those people better.
Yeah.
if you're gonna play this music, or at least make people aware, and you can. It depends on, like I said, the deal is that Fela feels okay with it. Fela says, okay, you can, yeah, I feel like you're paying homage. I feel like you're doing this. So you can take that, and I think that's the fine line of cultural appropriation, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a tricky area, but I love how you just broke it down there. That's very, very clear. And I think it's also a really great example. The Paul McCartney example is great in that he's a good dude, he's a good human, but even Paul, he came over with good intentions, but when you're a white dude from a rich country, there are things that even with good intentions that we can't see. So the angle that you just presented there, Paul's a good dude, but he, even in his best intentions, he couldn't have thought of that angle because he's coming from a first world place where he made music in a first world place, and he's got 20 different bank accounts. And so for somebody like Fela Kuti to be able to point that out, I would hope that Paul, and just by his response I would imagine he probably was like, wow, I never thought of it that way. And it makes a lot of sense. I mean, the price, there's something just so intrinsically, and this isn't anything, but in music, it's the price you pay for something, meaning like, even a guy like Kobe Bryant, he paid a price to be that good at basketball. But music is even another level of price because it's, and I think about the Nigerian community, which I don't know as much about, but I also think about the Black community in the United States. And if you think about the emanations of music, where it started from, and a lot of the gospel that we hear across the street in the Black churches, where was the emanation of that? The emanation from that was slavery. This is all we have. And you're essentially, music was the conduit for the pain in the soul. It was the release. It was, so there's no fucking pop Britney Spears in that instance. That is simply like, we are singing to survive, and we're singing to soothe our souls, to try to get through the pragmatic bullshit that we're having to walk through on a daily basis. So when you think of it with regard to the price, what I say this quote all the time because it's just so good, but that which costs us nothing, we esteem lightly. Therefore, flip that around. If music for a community like the Black community in the United States costs them so much, then it's expensive. It costs them so much, so they esteem it greatly. Right? And so I think it's a great way to look at it. Just in the, some of the cultural appropriation shit, I think is bullshit, to be honest. I think a lot of it is like, hey, what, you can't wear a hoop earring? You got the monopoly on hoop earrings, or, or like you don't, Italians saying, you can't, you don't own Italy, you don't own the hoop earring. Some of that stuff to me gets us off track. But I like how you cut to the heart of that issue, and I think the heart is the cost, and the humility that you have to approach something like that with, giving back, thirdly, and then also just the nature of music, how it's connected to the soul, and like the blues. Hey folks, thanks for listening. Once again, a big thank you to our sponsor for the podcast, Love Justice International. You can follow them on Instagram. It's at LoveJusticeINTL, or you can go to their website, lovejustice.ngo, and consider donating. Once again, that is lovejustice.ngo, lovejustice.ngo. Thank you. Because there are so few chords in the blues, people assume that is not that's a simple form of music. There's nothing simple about it, where it came from, right? I mean, that's kind of what you're saying. You want to touch the blues, good luck. There's more than. Then you gotta know the beauty of the blues is not the simplicity of the chords, but it's the emotion that comes out of the pain of the singer, and all that to say, like
that's not to say that white people can't feel the blues and feel that pain and feel that emotion. Like I said, Stevie Ray Vaughan, like, my God, like that man took the blues to another level. I think where the disconnection is where the person is taking the music or where, has the dread, a white guy with dreadlocks who isn't paying or isn't like actually living the Rastafarian life, or isn't actually paying homage to what the image that they are saying that they are, or like, yeah, it all comes down to how are you giving back. If you are like wearing this thing that belongs to another culture, are you wearing it to be cool, or are you actually giving back to that culture?
You coming by that honestly?
Yes.
Or are you just jumping into it for the style, right?
100%.
Yeah. So talk to me about being an artist right now, man. Like, does it make you feel less inclined to want to make music, or does it make you more excited to make music?
That's a great question. I'm this time during the pandemic, during George Floyd, and I've definitely gone through slumps of emptiness and depression and up and going through the kind of peaks and valleys of that. But ultimately, it has been inspiring and empowering to create. And I've taken this time to really trying to get better at logic and mixing and logic and making things sound the way I want them to sound, and getting my production skills up to at least to better and being able to grasp the whole picture. I think it has been inspiring in a lot of ways. Mostly inspiring, other than paralyzing.
Sure. So going back to, you're being an artist, and during that time you were making your album, during those 2.5 years of writing, where you got to walk into that studio and you got to conjure something up every day, 150, 200 songs, and you got to walk in that studio and say, how do I write something that is Devon today?
Yeah.
And you've got to somehow at the end of it have a theme that runs consistent, or a thread that runs consistent on that, especially when you're doing an album. If you're just releasing singles, it's one thing. Yeah. But you released a project. Indicative in a project typically is a thread, a lyrical, a muse.
Yes.
Whether, it's the Adele record when she broke up with her boyfriend, and all of a sudden every song is about her. That record is about her breakup, right? So you obviously had a muse. Talk about what your muse was for your debut record. For Black Hole Rainbow, and the 2.5 years that I spent writing, putting that vision together, at the time I was going through a breakup. I broke up with my girlfriend, who I was like, I thought was the love of my life, and it didn't work out, and our paths went in different directions, and I had to figure out how to love myself and be alone and go and really learn how to be present and all of those things, and get through that depression of being alone. And so that was part of that moment. And also the past 4 years, this election, this presidency, and that absolutely affected the good life. Is all about loving, putting yourself in other people's shoes that come from a different culture, different country. I wrote that song because Trump was keeping Muslims out of the country, was banning Muslims out of the country, was trying to build a wall around the United States and Mexico to keep Mexican immigrants out. He was dehumanizing people, and I think that was the biggest issue in that moment, that like just
made me so sad and inspired me to write that song. And so it was all like feeling and also lonely was I wrote about going through depression and knowing that you're not the only one going through it, knowing that there are other people around that have been there too, and like feeling like no one understands you, but realizing that there are people that do understand like what I'm going through and in this time in our country, and also being alone, being by yourself and not having someone that is pouring love into you at the moment, and pouring the love into yourself. That's what Black Hole Rainbow was about, like getting through the dark times and getting to the other side and seeing the beauty of it. And it's I believe that it's an imprint of that, what I was going through in that moment. And as far as the evolution and the next journey, the next step, this time is affecting that too. And I actually wrote a song with the band, like Joseph, the band that I'm probably putting out soon, about right now, about it's called Cracks in the Ceiling, and it's just about the structure that is broken right now and the wound that needs to be healed.
Love that title.
Thank you.
Good.
And this moment is for sure inspiring songs that are being written. And I've actually been listening to Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, that whole album, like over and over and over and over. Like I'm actually putting a project together where I'm gathering a bunch of artists in here in Nashville and in LA and New York, and we're going to cover that album and trying to raise money for Equity Alliance, which fights voter suppression, educates on the democratic process here in Tennessee and Nashville, and like communities of color and low income. And that, like, I want to create something that, to me, Marvin did it the best. Like he created this record that says God is love, and I love you, brother, but we have a problem, and we need to listen, and we need to let's talk, let's hear each other, and also at the same time, that record makes you want to make love, it makes you want to dance, and like it. If I could do that, like that would be the dream. That's what I want to do with my music and the next step.
I always love tunes like that give off a feel, that aren't indicative at all of the lyric.
Yeah,
they're actually opposite, right?
It's like
a
trickery, man. It's subliminal almost. It's like subliminal messaging. It's right. Like you're taking it like, oh man, this makes me feel so good. Yeah, and it's making me feel good as well as hearing a message, and as well as like, oh my God, like whoa. Oh my God, these are real things that are going on. Mercy, mercy me. Things ain't what they used to be. Yeah.
That's really cool. It's like the opposite mechanism that genres like punk music. It's like the actual anger and the angst in the lyric is consistent with the tempo and the style and everything, and like all the guitar tones and the way the singer, but Marvin did it backwards.
Yeah, exactly.
It make you feel good, and I'm gonna slide something in,
and just so you see it, and like it's crazy how 50 years later, the words in that record are still so relevant. Yeah, and they ring true. And to create art and music that does that says this is an imprint of the moment and the time, but 50 years later you're gonna understand it, you're gonna feel it. And I remember sitting down right before I went out to a protest and learning all the chords to what's going on, learned the song, and I broke down crying because I realized at that moment what Marvin was saying, the message that he was trying to give, which was, can we just sit here and talk? Can we just have a conversation about the madness that's happening around us? Can you hear me? You know, and that was that killed me.
I love that answer, man. And that makes me want to go back and listen to that album, because I don't listen to those songs in that context, man.
Jamie, listen to that entire record, front to back.
Yeah,
it's like exactly what everyone needs to hear right now.
Yeah,
it's Marvin just saying, hear me out, listen, we have to have a conversation. Hey, I can't ever say this word, evangelical.
Yeah.
Hey, evangelical Christians, God is love. Just a simple song, that one song on there, just God is love.
Yeah.
Like that to me, it says everything of what we need to value, like what God actually is. And I mean, on a religious sense of like, that's how I see it, you know. And I think Marvin he's speaking to the country in that record.
Yeah. Well, man, if you can,
I'll send
do
it
that
to
for
you.
your next record.
Yeah. Oh my God, that'd be magic.
Yeah. What's the conversation like right now with an artist and his label in the middle of a global pandemic? I mean, are you talking about a next record? Are you literally on pause, or is it like, no, let's get to more content, or is it like let's pause and push the content we have? What are they doing?
They want another record.
Yeah,
they're like, Dev, come on, get those songs ready. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So I just been writing my butt off.
Yeah.
And it's been good. It's been like forward moving. They want more music. They want a record. And I'm like, you know, the game plan is hopefully this fall, winter is when we'll be recording, you know, jumping in and doing it. Man,
let's cheers to something breaking and us being able to kind of see where we're going in all this, right? People being able to somehow live some life and know where we're, you know, cheers to that.
Cheers.
We got to catch a break.
For real. We got to somehow.
Yeah.
And we got to keep creating, you know, I think this pandemic has really changed the entire perspective, like the definition of what it means to be a musician in this time and to be an artist. And, you know, figuring out like if I can't tour for another potentially year and a half, because who knows if even 2021, there's, you know, artists pulling out from 2021, big art, like venues that may not open up again. And you know, this year, it's such a huge effect on the touring that's going to happen in the next 2 years. You know, we have to figure out, how do we connect with people in this time that we can't play music in front of them? And that's hard. But also we got to create. We have to. I look at musicians' careers, and there's always slumps. You know, years that for years that they don't put anything out, and I think that, but they come back and they put something out that represents that time, like you said, and I think that's what it comes down to, is we have to have faith that like touring is not going to happen for maybe a year, but that doesn't mean we stop as musicians.
Yeah. Well, hell, Elvis went to war.
Wow. Right? Yeah. Shit. Damn. Like that's crazy.
Yeah. I think John Wayne did too.
Wow.
Did he when he was acting at the height of his acting career? I could be wrong about that, but I think John Wayne went to war, which is crazy because he made so many war movies.
Yeah. And Biggie Smalls going to jail for a couple, you know, like all these people, like Tupac going to jail. Like it's like there's years of things happen in your if you're an artist, like shit happens in your life that locks you down and puts you in war and whatever. Like you have to, whatever it is, you have to take that and be present and absorb it and turn it into art no matter what. And this has been a huge challenge for sure. And saying like, I could either be depressed and sad and say this next year is a wash, or I could take it in and create something with it.
Man, you know, one of the things I was talking with a buddy the other night about, you know, obviously there are a lot of silver linings to this pandemic. It's made us, it's put a forced pause on all of us, and we've had to, invariably a forced pause causes you to evaluate.
Yeah.
But even just the nature of a pandemic, meaning you catch something, makes us, I thought about the concept of efficiency. You know, we just like had so much of everything. We don't think about who we're talking to, who we're going out with, who we're, you know, we're just always doing it, doing everything with everybody, going out to every restaurant,
hugging, all of it.
Go to eat every fucking night, right? And just do this. And all of a sudden, we have to be intentional
about not connecting.
Yeah. And then as we start to connect again, we have to be intentional about connecting. Like everybody you're connecting with, you're evaluating it.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like you're evaluating who you give a hug to.
100%.
I mean, obviously we know what's bad about that. It's scary, and we don't want to not be able to connect with other humans. But I think one of the things that it's forced me to do is be more efficient, to evaluate my actions.
Yep.
You know, if I touch somebody, if I put my arm, if I put my hand on somebody's shoulder now, it's intentional.
Yeah.
It's more valuable in a sense because
100%.
You know what I'm saying? Because we're having to evaluate our actions, our relationships, our movements. And so, I don't know, something about that intentionality, which does expand to kind of the artist realm too. Like
absolutely.
You know, you've got to be more intentional with what you do. You've got to step back and say, man, I can't just rely on a 50-city radio tour anymore. You know what I'm saying?
No,
like, I gotta like get creative with how to connect to my fans. And you know what? I think in the end, those fans are gonna love that, dude, because I think they're gonna be able to connect with you more intentionally and more authentically, because you got to step back. You're gonna play smaller venues when you do start playing.
I can't wait. Yeah. I can't wait to play smaller venues, man.
Well, speaking of Broussard, so Broussard I think he just jumped in an RV today, and I called him up and I was like, dude, would you come down and sing at Never Never? We're just trying to figure out how to keep these doors open in a pandemic. We come out and sing on the back patio. Not going to be a lot of people. We got it limited to probably 35, 40 people, but you want to come sing? And he's like, hell yeah. Threw his family in the RV, come down, he's going to sing on the back patio, you know? And it's like, I couldn't have got Broussard. I never would have asked Broussard to come sing on the back patio. He would have never said yes. I would have never disrespected him by even asking him. But all of a sudden, people are going to get to experience Mark in a way that they would never.
Yep.
Because they're in close contact. Yeah, so I don't know.
It's special, man.
Yeah.
That is a connection that is undeniable, and like we as musicians, we're not getting that.
Right.
You know, and if in any way possible, if we can get it, it's like that's a special thing. And you know, it's a weird time. It's so weird because you really do have to be careful and intentional about how you do that too. Yeah. And it's there is power. There's power and there's something good that does come out of that though. You know, it's just I feel like we're going to appreciate so much that getting in front of a crowd and playing music. Right, oh my God. I can't even imagine I think back to February, I got to play at the Ryman opening for Grace Potter. And good Lord.
Yeah, right.
What?
How amazing does that seem now?
What a
right?
privilege.
Yeah.
I'm almost going to cry thinking about it, because I might not get that till 2022.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who knows when I get to play the Ryman again?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, Dev, what it makes us do is realize all the things we were taking for granted.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like all these things that in the present moment that were just kind of passing us by, and we just had so much of everything that it was hard. It's economics. It's supply and demand. We had so much. You know, if I knew you loved chocolate, and I knew Devon just had this infatuation with chocolate,
which I do.
You do. And if I sent you, if I sent you chocolate every day for the next year, right? I'd ruin your love for chocolate, because you'd have so much of it that you wouldn't appreciate it as much.
100%.
So when you limit your supply, then it increases the demand or the taste or the appreciation. I mean, I guess that's I hope we get some of that through the course of this
real
thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, appreciate jumping in the right, appreciating when people walk in the studio and getting to collaborate, you know, and have bodies in the studio. We don't got to Zoom.
Oh my God.
You know, I've been starting to do the Zoom thing, but it's
not the same. It's not the same.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, like, I've actually, for this project, for the What's Going On project that I'm working on, you know, I've had the privilege of getting in the room and playing music with like these guys and like working it up, and just that, getting in the room with people and playing music with a band,
something, right? That
feeling is I miss it so much.
Yeah.
It's so special. It's so special. And I really do. The appreciation for music, getting together, and also appreciation for like having a friend come to your house and all of those things. Like it's going to be, we're going to have so much more capacity for appreciation after this.
Yeah.
This whole thing.
Let's hope so, man. Hey, cheers to that. That's a good thing to end on, that hopeful note.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers to that. Believing in it. Man, we passed the time, brother.
Jamie.
I had a fun time chatting with you, man. I really appreciate you coming over. And like I said to you before we started, man, I just, I'm so glad you came over to talk. I've been looking forward to it. And just, I love what you do. And I'm a huge believer in not just your talent, which is obviously undeniable, but your authenticity as an artist. And then equally your authenticity as a person, man. And I'm a champion of yours, and I'm gonna keep reminding you not to forget about the other side.
100%, man.
The other side of it, because you got something to say, and you have a way of putting it. And I look forward to that record, and look forward to see how you put that into an album, because you're the man for the moment, I promise you. And I know there are a lot of people out there, a lot of great artists, but I really have full confidence in you that you were made for this moment, and this moment is for you, and you there's a big purpose for that, the voice that you have, and not a lot of people have it. The actual singing voice, but also your voice as your thoughts and the love that you communicate it with is really, really necessary. And if I could take what you have right now and somehow just download it to a USB stick and stick it in the head of every American, I think everything would be fine right now. We'd all be good. So man, that's the goal, is to get more of Governor Gilfillian out there.
Oh, Jamie,
anyway.
I'm so honored, brother, and I love you so much, and I'm so grateful for you as a friend and collaborator, and man, just like a wise voice in this world and in this business. Like, you know, I'm so grateful that I got to write with you for the first time years ago, and just connect and really it's people like you that have, like I said, that capacity and of not only like insane intelligence, but emotional intelligence, that makes this world turn, and also inspires me to be better, to be emotionally connected with people. And I think that's what it comes down to, man. That's what it is. That's what this is. And I want to connect with everyone, and just have them understand the perspective of me, a Black artist, as an artist, and an American, man. In this country, like we all want. Like you said, it's all love. We all have the same. We all want the same thing. At the end of the day, we want to feel comfortable. We want to feel seen, and I think these conversations are a good way to get there.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. My brother, love you. Thank you
man.
so much for coming. It's been a pleasure, and let's do it again. All right.
I'm in.
All right.
Anytime.
All right. Thank you, folks, for listening. See ya.